So we are 1 month away from E3, and I'm getting excited. We didn't have it last year, so there's some built-up, I would say, demand and excitement on top of the usual E3 excitement. So I wanted to bring a couple people together here, and we're going to be talking about Microsoft today. So let me start here. We have Randow Thor 19. Rand, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on the channel, Gunspawn. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And then we have John Cartwright. John over at Nintendo Life, but is a pretty big Xbox gamer as well. Big Halo fan, I know that, like myself. So with what we're expecting here, I knew I had to have John on as well. John, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'm really excited to finally see. Last time we saw Halo was back in, what was it September? A long time ago now. Actual gameplay.
Yeah, we're going to be talking quite a bit about Halo. Trust me on that one. But I assume Microsoft is going to kick things off for I guess the week, a 4-day event for E3, like they tend to, where they'll go first. But how does everyone feel right now going into E3, specifically with Microsoft, since they have had a slower start to the year with their first parties? They really haven't done much technically with releases from their first parties since they had to delay Halo Infinite out from launch. Rand, how are you feeling kind of going into this?
I'm getting pretty excited, man. It's going to be really interesting to see Microsoft come together with Bethesda. I mean, we assume they're doing a show together. Jeff Grubbs kind of talked about it. Maybe it's like two shows combined into one or whatever. But like, I'm really excited to sit down and watch like an hour and a half, 2 hours of games coming to Xbox, hopefully. And I remember talking on Spawncast with you about this. A lot of the people's the reason they didn't particularly care for Xbox's show last year was because it was mostly CGI trailers. I think Xbox rectifies that, and we'll see a lot of gameplay this year, which should excite everybody really.
The issue was the one thing they showed for gameplay. Even that was like people were not too thrilled with it because it was the Halo Infinite stuff. So even the one bit of gameplay just didn't get people won over, I guess, with it. But what do you think, John, going into this? How you feeling with Microsoft?
Well, we're 6 months into the Series X now, and I still don't really have an idea of what a Series X game looks like. We've had a lot of CG trailers, and I think this is probably going to be the time we start seeing actual, from the ground up, games for the system. My expectations are slightly tempered because Fable and Perfect Dark are early. I don't think we're going to see them anytime soon. But I think there's still room for a ton of surprises. And Halo Infinite, it looks like the return to form I've been waiting for since 343 took over from the franchise. And hopefully it can deliver.
Yeah, so I'm actually feeling pretty good going into this E3, mostly because like Microsoft technically hasn't released a first party game since the launch of the system. So they're going to go, I mean, at least the first, half of this year without it. I mean, they could drop something, I guess, towards the end of the summer, maybe like Psychonauts 2 or something. But everyone seems to be okay with Microsoft for the most part right now because of all the Game Pass stuff they've been doing. So, like, obviously that's working for them. But if they can get to this event and at least start showing, as you say, Rand, some gameplay for their first party stuff, I feel like at that point there'd be a lot of excitement around the Xbox brand and really, I guess, the Game Pass brand now as they're really calling for it. So should we just start with, the big elephant in the room is definitely Halo Infinite. I mean, that's what they have to show up here and really like show off after last year. So how do you think they do this with Halo Infinite? Because that's their holiday game, right? That's their big flagship holiday game is going to be Halo Infinite. We're looking, I assume, at a year delay for this thing, maybe out not like October or November.
Yeah, I feel like this has the potential to be their Breath of the Wild of the showcase, where they can just kind of depend on this one for a long runtime. We haven't, like, last time we saw it, it was rough. And they've shown blog posts recently where it looks a lot better. So I feel like they can just do another campaign demo and just show how far it's come along.
Let me ask you this. Do they show the exact same spot? And do they show, okay, this is how much, like, do they do a side-by-side comparison of, like, the bad version that they showed last year? And they're like, look how much better it is now. Like, literally take advantage of it. And then they show Craig and, like, they show, like, a filter slide. They're like, look how much better he is now.
I think that's a smart idea. I think Craig should be in there, like in his original form, somewhat just hidden.
That has to be an
the
Easter
actual
egg,
game.
right? We
It's
have to
gotta
have
be.
that as an Easter egg in the game, like an achievement is like Craig or
Find
something. And
Craig.
you find that one brute where they just didn't put the animations on his face or something.
But yeah, I think there's a ton of show. I mean, this looks like a really flexible sandbox. We've seen the grapple hook, we've seen the weapon variety. It looks like a return to form of what Halo used to be, with like the silent cartographer and levels like that. So I do think they can really show up what this game's really about. And we've never seen the multiplayer either, which I think
Yeah.
they were gonna show last year, but didn't. So this is kind of the time to do it.
Yeah. What are you thinking about Halo right now, Rand?
Pretty. You know, I was thinking the same exact thing as you. I was thinking, what if they did a side by side comparison? It was like, look how it looked before, look how it looks now. But that would only really work if it was significantly improved. I know Joseph Staten tweeted something on Twitter where he said his weekend was booked and it was a whole bunch of different sequences. So I wonder if it's going to be less of a 10-minute demo and more of a stitched together version of kind of a different gameplay from different areas on the ring to give you a different viewpoint, like different, like showing different things that you can do,
Environments.
like an actual more
Yeah.
of a trailer. I do think they'll hold multiplayer reveal till later in the year. They were supposed to show it last year in like Gamescom in like in August,
Mm.
but then Halo got delayed for a year, so they was like, okay, well, there's no reason to show the multiplayer. So I think they hold off on that. I think, like, let me ask you guys this: what do you think? Does Halo's been at Microsoft shows for the 2018, 2019, 2020. It's opened the show in 2018. It's closed the show in 2019. It's opened the show in 2020. What do they do with Halo Infinite this year? Does it open the
Oh.
show? Does it close the show? Is it in the middle? What do you think they
Both.
do?
Open
That's-
and
that's
close.
a good question. Open and close, just all Halo. I mean, I don't know. I feel like you could close the show with it and have a release date.
Mm.
Like just like when okay, so you mentioned their Breath of the Wild moment, John, with this. If it really is that big, and like you're saying, Rand, they have this massive trailer pop up, and it cuts all around the different areas and environments and different maybe even some set pieces and sequences for the story that they show. It would kind of remind me a bit of like what Nintendo did when they finished up their event and they showed Breath of the Wild, and it was like it's coming, at launch for this system in March. But if Microsoft had this thing ready to go, and let's just say it's a September or an October release, something like that, so it would place it 3 to 4 months away from when they're showing it. If they just end and then they have the release date shown, that would be a pretty impactful way, I feel like, to end the show. It's like, all right, Halo Infinite, it's actually on track. It's going to happen. Here's the release date. You can look forward to it. I feel like you could open the show with something maybe a bit surprising. I don't know if they have any kind of surprising releases or reveals ready to go, whether it's from a third party or themselves. But like, I feel like you could open the show with something just like kind of catch people off guard.
I feel like you could still open the show with Halo just to get it out of the way, or have it in the middle. Like, I don't know. I feel like you want something. I mean, Halo's everybody knows about it. It's been at each of these shows for so many years now. I feel like you end the show with something a bit bigger. Maybe the first gameplay debut of Halo, or of Hellblade 2 rather.
Okay.
Something that's like more exciting. Like, we haven't seen it. You could end the show with that, or perhaps, if it gets done by then, maybe you announce the Kojima project if that's finished.
Oh,
as a
that would be
surprise.
interesting to
That'd
have
be
that thing in there.
I just kind of like, I don't know. We've seen Halo the last 3 years. I don't really think they shouldn't close with it, in my opinion. But
Okay.
but having the date where you have the trailer and then it says September or November would be pretty awesome. And I can't wait to see what the game finally looks like, what it plays. I can't wait to play the game, honestly.
There's a lot of shaken confidence in this game right now. So I'm hoping that they're pretty confident going into it with their release date, and they can actually hammer in a release date rather than just leave it up to 2021 or something like that. That would be my hope, is that they have it all planned out. They even have maybe a flight set up ready to go for the multiplayer later this year ahead of launch, just to get that done so they can test their servers, make sure everything's good to go with it. And then they can roll into hopefully a smooth release for. I mean, it's their flagship series. It's you think of Halo, you think of the Xbox. So I'm hoping this extra 1 year of time has been put into making the game like really good. So that's kind of. I just hope it doesn't launch with an issue with multiplayer like we have with Master Chief Collection or any of that. And it's just, it comes out, you can download it on Game Pass. They get their their subscriber numbers spike from it, and it's a big deal for Halo again.
Well-
Because Halo's kind of fallen off a little bit, I would say, in recent years.
I mean, we're gonna big game like Halo Infinite free to play is probably gonna have server issues that first week.
Well, I mean,
So
like
many people
Master
are gonna
Chief,
play it.
Master Chief
Oh,
Collection
Master
was
Chief
like
didn't work.
that was
Yeah.
devastating when that
That
came
was
out.
devastating.
So I mean, like that. If they can keep it away from like I can't even do matchmaking like at all, So that would be my hope. And that wasn't even fixed for years.
It took a long time. Yeah.
I mean, now it's great. Like I play Master Chief Collection all the time, but like when it came out, it was like, wow, this is kind of ugly. You know what I would like to see them open it with is some sort of impactful Game Pass entry. If they're not going to open with Halo Infinite, and I think a good one for them to do, we've talked about this, Rand, and it seems like we're going to see a reveal for it in June, is Battlefield 6. You open with that.
That would be impactful.
Because they teased yesterday that they're going to announce this game in June. And if the rumors that are going around that have been popping up online about that possibly being a Game Pass game next to a couple other possibilities, if they had that set up as, oh, this is also going to be a Game Pass game, here's your first look at Battlefield 6, I think that'd be a pretty good thing to drop in there, whether to open or maybe earlier in the show.
Do you think they do one of those things at the show where everything they show during this is also day one on Game Pass like they did last year, where it's like everything you see is free with Game Pass on day one type of thing?
Yeah, I could see them doing that, where they really try to work that in. I mean, obviously, anything they show from their first-party studios, it's going to be Game Pass, but it's going to be, I feel like they'd want to show some bigger third parties attached to, like, I mean, Elden Ring's been talked about a lot. Microsoft debuted it at their show. It'd be cool to see it again show up here, but, like, I don't think Elden Ring's heading to Game Pass day one. I could be wrong. You never know. But, like, I like the idea of them saying the next section, these are all going to be Game Pass day one kind of thing. But I also feel like they want to make sure that branding is, like, in front of us constantly, you know?
That sounds like a good incentive for third parties too. Like if you want to be in this show, then you've got to be on Game Pass. Like just kind of everyone wins if you do that. We kind of touched upon it a bit earlier, but Psychonauts 2, like the preload accidentally went live for a lot of people. So it's seemingly it's done. I can see that just shadow dropping. Like it's
I
available
love the
right
idea
now.
of it shadow dropping. I think because it's gonna go in Game Pass day one, and a lot of people who are gonna watch that show probably either are signed up to Game Pass or have thought about it. And it's like if Psychonauts 2 drops, that would just be a fun little thing to have. I mean, let's be honest, Psychonauts isn't like a massive subscription mover. It's not going to drop and everyone's like, well, I got a Game Pass. But for people who remember Psychonauts, the first one, or maybe they've tried it out because it isn't Game Pass now, they'd be like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to go ahead and download that. I feel like that's one they could do as like an extra perk. And I do like that idea quite a bit, John, because I like Psychonauts is an awesome game. And I'm excited to see it become a series with the sequel. But that would be a fun one to just kind of throw. People like those shadow drops. Even if it's in the Game Pass, it's still something really cool to have thrown out there. So I like that idea a lot. I hope they do that.
Well, we definitely know it's coming. Like John said, the preload went live. I think it's even been rated by a couple agencies. So it definitely seems like it's getting ready to release, which is great because I think the last time Double Fine talked about it, they were asking backers for their names for the credits. So it definitely seemed like they were at the end of the production. So that would be a cool moment. But like, by the way, Psychonauts 2 available right now. Go download it on Game Pass.
Do you think we hear anything else about backwards compatibility?
Oh, I'd love a phase 2. Like, just start doing more and more games, like Jet Set Radio Future, or like Sonic 06, maybe even with FPS boost.
Wow, Sonic 06. Why 120 FPS Sonic 06?
Yeah.
You mean like them announcing more FPS boost titles outside of the 100 they already have right now, or like a new resolution boost, like from the Ho Chi method that they did with the One X, where a bunch of older games can get that 4K resolution, or maybe bring an FPS boost to Xbox 360 games, so you can get like Dead Space 1 and 2 running at 60, stuff like that.
I'd love to see that. I'd also love to see them play around with some more original Xbox games even. Just go all the way back in time and then apply some of the cool effects that the Series X can do, even to some of those original Xbox games. Like, could they do something like throw, like you say, FPS boost on those? Could they do some form of resolution boost with ray trace? Like, just go crazy with it and just work towards more of that backwards compatibility library. Since when they first launched the Xbox, the team was working really hard to make sure everything worked fine with it. And I would assume now that they have gotten to that point, it's them looking to do more backwards compatibility stuff. I just like the idea of them grabbing more 360 games and bringing them up. Midnight Club LA is like back on the store just randomly, and I booted it up, and the thing still looks great now. So being able to do more additions like FPS boost for games like that, or better graphical options, I just think is really cool to have that there. So I wouldn't mind them just talking more about that.
It's one of my favorite features, to be honest. But looking at the original lineup, it is lacking. Like, we don't even have Halo 1 on there. And I know Master Chief Collection has Halo 1, but there's still perks to playing the original. So I'd love for them just to do more of them. Because what are we at, like 50 original Xbox games? It's not a huge pull.
Sure. Just grab more of them and throw them in. And now that we have those games showing up on Xcloud, it's like all kinds of people can play those original Xbox and 360 games now through that. So that's something I would like to see show up there. What else did we have at Microsoft's event here? What about some of those rumored partnerships, Rand? Whether it's Kojima, that's the big one, right?
Yeah, the Kojima one. I don't think it's going to be there. I think they shaved that for the Keeleys, the VGAs.
That makes sense.
I think they save it for that if it gets done. I know my buddy Jess Corden's been teasing some Xbox Global Partnership titles. The Typhoon emoji game plus the Project Dragon that is
Interactive.
being made by IO Interactive. But my understanding is that IO Interactive game is years away at this point, so I don't think that'll be revealed. I think it's possible we do see the Typhoon game that is supposed to be closer to release.
Interesting.
So I do think for sure we will get. They will announce a new global partnership game. Last year they revealed As Dusk Falls, and that was just one. So I do think we'll get maybe at least one, maybe two more global publish. Say that word a couple times fast, but I think we will see more reveals from them, seeing what they're doing. And this Typhoon game is supposed to be a big AAA connected world experience.
Interesting.
Yeah, from what I know of it, it sounds super, super interesting. So I can't wait for it to get revealed.
Okay. And we know the Coalition basically just told everyone they're not going to be around at E3 yesterday when they mentioned they're moving to Unreal Engine 5. Mm-hmm. So I don't really expect them to show up with much of anything there, if at all. But I do kind of expect, Rand, and you had mentioned this, that we should see some Forza representation.
Yeah. Forza Horizon 5. I think makes sense for it to come out this year. It's been 3 years. Forza Motorsport is currently in flighting right now, and it's nowhere near ready to come out this year.
That's interesting that like Motorsport is going to be missing this year, and it's going to be Horizon instead. Like, I feel like it's been a little while since we've had that Motorsport game.
Well, yeah, Motorsport. Last Motorsport was 2017. But Turn 10 basically went back and retooled the entire engine, adding ray tracing, right? And those tools that they use for Motorsport are obviously also then shared with Playground to do Forza Horizon. So what I think is going on is you have the last cross-gen Forza Horizon title, right? Forza Horizon 5 set in Mexico, at least according to a bunch of people. Cross-gen Xbox One, Xbox Series X is going to be huge. And then Turn 10 is flighting Forza Motorsport. They're building it with the community. They're working on the engine, improving it. Comes out maybe next year. And then the next Forza Horizon, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, will use that improved engine that Turn 10 has been building for, an Xbox Series X and S only Forza Horizon 6 3 to 4 years from now. So I think Forza Horizon 5 launching this year, October-ish, makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so all right, so we're talking probably this year we would see Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite, and Starfield.
That's a pretty killer lineup.
I this is where Bethesda comes into play, which I mean very well could end up being part of Microsoft's show, but we know Bethesda's doing their own show, right, Rand? Am I correct about that?
Well, I don't know. It definitely seems like they're doing their own show, but they're going to be tied together into one show, or at least like a break in between or something. We don't know yet. We're going to have to wait for Microsoft to officially confirm that. But yeah, I've been saying since the beginning of the year, and I'm gonna say it until I'm wrong, that I think Microsoft was looking to put out a 1-2-3 punch with Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, and Starfield releasing this holiday.
Wow, that
And
would be
that
a
would be
pretty
huge.
serious. I mean, pretty serious like run of. I'm gonna say three to 4 months. Like if let's say one drops in September, like maybe Forza, and then we get Halo, and then do they finish up with Starfield? Would that be possible?
I know there's a lot of people. I know there's a lot of people make a really valid argument that Halo will release on the 20th anniversary of Halo 1 on November 15th, 2021, which would be the 20-year anniversary, and that makes a lot of sense. That the marketing basically writes itself. But I was thinking, like, what if you had Halo Infinite come out in September,
You could
right?
do that.
You had Forza Horizon come out in October, and then you had Starfield as the big November release, and on the 15th, you know, the 20-year anniversary of Halo, you have the first huge content drop for Halo Infinite for multiplayer and all that stuff that's based around Halo Combat Evolved. So you get like a second push.
Oh, I
You know,
like
you
that.
get out before all the big games, you get out before Call of Duty, you get out before Battlefield 6, and you kind of have your own little like niche market there in September as the first kind of big title. I think that could work out very well, you know?
And it's going to be, all right, so Halo Infinite's going to be free to play as well for the multiplayer side of things. So that should draw in a pretty good audience now because the Xbox Live Gold requirement's gone.
Yeah, finally, thank God.
It's just going to drop on Xbox, and it'll be like their first party Fortnite almost with the Halo brand.
And if you want to play the campaign, you can subscribe to Game Pass or you can just buy it outright.
I feel like a lot of people will just, I honestly think people who download that like for free to play would probably just do Game Pass then.
I mean,
Like-
that's probably their hope. I think they're really relying on Halo, Forza, and potentially Starfield to drive Game Pass subs this fall.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's very realistic too with those kind of that lineup. And then you possibly have something like them just adding, we'll just say a Battlefield 6 in a Game Pass day one as like one of their big third party pushes for it. You could have a pretty serious lineup for Game Pass that they could do even a sizzle reel on at some point with a video drop. And it's like, Forza, Halo, Starfield, and then Battlefield. And it's like, wow, that's actually a pretty good lineup for the holidays there.
Well, there's even rumors that the Ubisoft back catalog will come to Game Pass this fall as well, like
A lot
in
of
November.
Assassin's Creed getting dropped in all
Yeah.
at once.
You know,
Yeah.
you just saw a bunch of like Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs 2, the entire Far Cry games all get FPS boost.
Yeah.
If they add Uplay Plus or whatever to Game Pass in November, like you said, you have those three big day one titles. If you have Battlefield 6 day one and a bunch of Ubisoft games, Microsoft could they could present a compelling case to people why you need to invest in the Xbox ecosystem today instead of waiting. Like, these are all available for you for a cheap subscription price. Look at all the games and the value that you would get whether if you buy a Series S or a Series X,
Yeah. There's actually one other big first-party game which is dropping any month now, and that's Flight Sim for Xbox. We learned that's coming in the summer, and I know it came out last year on PC, but being able to say like it's part of Game Pass, and you don't need like a big high-end PC to run it anymore. You can just play it on a console. And they've talked about wanting that on Xcloud as well, and that is just such an accessible way to play what is a pretty far-reaching game.
It's been
that's
kind of
killer.
it's been kind of intimidating for people when they talk about that game with like certain kind of rigs that you need to play it well. You're right, John. If you even just have it on Xcloud, that's very accessible, and that'd be a really like weird game to play on Xcloud just because of the scope of that game and the kind of stuff they do in that game. Like when things happen in real life, you can actually like fly over that spot and see, like when that boat got stuck in that canal, people were flying over it and looking down and you could see the boat there in the water stuck. People were doing updates through Flight Simulator. Like, is the boat still stuck? And they're like, I don't know. Let me just fly over here and check. And it was kind of neat. You're right though. It is on PC, but I think there are a lot of people who have the Xbox. They're like, I don't really feel like buying a $2,000 3080 or 3090 to play this thing. I'll just wait for it to come to Xbox. So it's more content for Game Pass on console. And it's a game that's not going to work on, like the Xbox One VCR might catch on fire if you play that thing on it. So it's
Speaking of xCloud, I do think they'll make an announcement. They just launched it on iOS and Windows browsers, but the next big step is getting Series X blades in the servers and not Xbox One S. I think they'll make that announcement during the show that they're beta testing the Series X blades, and then it'll probably then the technology will be on par with Stadia, and the latency will drop, and everything will load faster and stuff. So I think they'll definitely talk about XCloud in some form or
I wonder if
fashion.
they'll push it to 4K at that, or have plans to then push it to 4K as well, like Stadia.
I think it's possible, although with the semiconductor shortage and everything, it probably has impacted their plans. They probably, originally when they were planning this years ago, they were like, "Yeah, we're not gonna have any problems getting all these Series X's into the server blades, but nobody can buy the system now, and it's tough to produce them." So
Also, let's be real. The competition with Stadia has kind of dried up a bit, and it's unfortunate because I feel like if Stadia was pushing a lot harder, we might have XCloud move even faster. But like, if you're Microsoft, you're kind of looking at Stadia like, we'll take our time. We'll get there eventually. It's fine. So I mean, Stadia is kind of just drifting through the ocean right now, not doing much. So
when you mentioned xCloud, I thought that you were going to go on a very different path there, because Phil's had that elusive Switch sitting on the shelf in the backdrop. So what's all that about?
I don't know. Like, I've always been of the opinion that I think Game Pass and xCloud will come to Switch at some point. I think it's going to happen. I don't know if it'll happen this year or years from now, but it just makes a lot of sense. I know Microsoft wants it. Maybe Nintendo's a little less. Why would we want it? But I think they might get it done. And you're right. It was on Phil's shelf. We know everything on there basically have some sort of importance. Maybe it's just an Azure partnership, but I don't think they would tease that. I think it's maybe something more meaningful. Maybe, what if it's just Master Chief coming to Smash? What if that's in the Nintendo Direct announcement, right?
That would be a pretty big deal. That would be something that would really, like how we saw Steve like break Twitter there for a little while. I think Master Chief would break Twitter if he showed up in Smash. But that means that Halo would be on the Switch in some way.
I mean, there have been rumors for a long time that Master Chief Collection was going to make its way to Switch.
I'd be curious how that would be possible unless it was just streamed. If it's streamed, then that makes sense. And Nintendo's allowed streaming games on the Switch. In fact, the Hitman 3 just got a patch recently through streaming where it's now 60 frames per second on the Switch just through streaming. And it's stuff that's actively being worked on. And I'm sure if they wanted to, they could move it over and just say, hey, it's a streamed game, just like we've seen Control and Hitman 3. Maybe it's not part of xCloud and you have to buy it like you do those other games, but it's still available then on the Switch. And then, hey, look, here's Master Chief and Smash.
That's, I guess, kind of a good demo for xCloud. Like, you can show how well streaming works, and if people are happy, they can play on mobile and play everything that Xbox has.
What about this? What if Halo Infinite, which is free to play, just gets moved to the Switch as a streaming free-to-play game? And, I mean, if you like it, then obviously you can... they'll have microtransaction stuff attached to that, Battle Pass, all this. But, like, that might be worth it for them to just say, hey, you know what, let's move Halo Infinite over, and we'll let them stream it if they want to do it that way, like through the multiplayer, or even the campaign.
That sounds really likely. I don't know if the full Game Pass ecosystem is going to come over. I mean, I'd love it to, but that doesn't seem like something Nintendo would approve. But yeah, just individual games like Halo Infinite, I think that could happen.
They could probably curate the app, because I'm sure right now to Microsoft, they see the install base on the Switch, which is most likely going to be over 100 million by the end of this year at the pace it's going. I mean, that's a lot of people that you could have exposure for Game Pass. And you put on the Switch, and we've seen it, like smaller apps on the Switch get a lot of excitement behind it. Like if Netflix showed up on the Switch tomorrow, it would actually trend on Twitter. It would be a big deal. But like for everyone else, it's on your phone and stuff. It'd be like, I guess. But like some of these apps that show up, there's a lot of press behind it. So yeah, if Game Pass showed up on the Switch, I think a lot of people would be talking about it and just trying it out, at least downloading the app and then seeing what it's about. And who knows, maybe if you download it, they attach like a 7-day free trial for you just to try it. And then all of a sudden there's 20 million systems in Japan that Microsoft could actually get Game Pass to.
Yeah, and their Japanese lineup's excellent at the moment. Like you got Nier Automata, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, and the Game Pass Twitter was even teasing more Dragon Quest earlier. But I
Yes.
don't know what that's gonna be. It could just be the trilogy, but that's not E3 worthy. But like, what if it was something new? Because Builders 2 came to Xbox, and that was never part of the console before that. And I mean, this is a big stretch. But 11 came out in 2016 in Japan.
See, I like where you're going with
Yeah,
this.
so that's 5 years ago now. Can you imagine if Xbox were the ones to debut a new Dragon Quest, or even Dragon Quest 12?
I like the idea. And you know what? I think that's something they would consider. They might even do it. Yeah, Dragon Quest 12 could, because Sony's not going to be at E3. Like,
Right.
and I mean, they've done it. They debuted like Tales of Arise. That debuted with Microsoft. Like, why couldn't they just debut Dragon Quest 12 with what seems to be a pretty good relationship they've built with Square now? I mean, why not? Why not say, hey, here's Dragon Quest 12, and it'll be available, next year. But the thing with that is, if Microsoft debuts it on their stage, it would probably have to have a worldwide release.
Hmm.
Because they're not going to debut it on their stage and it come out in Japan first when there's like 40,000 Xbox Series systems in Japan. They would want that to be worldwide. And we've seen some games now get announced, like Lost Judgment. That's going to be a worldwide release for Sega. So if Sega's doing a worldwide release for that game, I feel like it's about time Dragon Quest got its worldwide release for 12, especially since 11 was very popular.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of that, as long as it's a worldwide release. And you know what? I wouldn't even mind Microsoft saying, you know what? It's going to debut in Game Pass. Like, that would be big time for them to at least have that. I mean, Phil keeps saying he's trying to, work more towards the Japanese audience and the and that region. I think you do something like that, it would at least bring some attention to Xbox for them.
And that's how you counter Sony with Final Fantasy. I mean, they're just money hatting every major Final Fantasy at this point. Get Dragon Quest.
Why not? I like and Dragon Quest 11 was very good. So I would love to see 12 and what they come up with there, especially since 11 was built on Unreal Engine.
Right.
And I'm sure that helps them with speed up development a bit. So yeah, maybe this is the E3 we see 12. I'm excited now. I'm excited to see that. I think that you got something there. But do we have any final thoughts on Microsoft now heading into E3? Because it seems like there is a lot to look forward to. And last time they were at E3, it was a lot of quantity. So I'm expecting to see quite a bit of stuff. But what any final thoughts you guys have on Microsoft here at E3 2021?
I think we're going to see a bigger focus on gameplay, and I'm expecting it to be focused on titles coming out this year and next year. So I agree with John when he said earlier that I don't think Fable's going to be there. I don't think Perfect Dark's going to be there. I don't even think Everwild's going to be there. I think those 3 games are 2023 and beyond. So I do think we get a Hellblade 2, more Avowed, maybe State of Decay 3. I think that's a little bit further away. But then, like, you have the other aspect. We didn't really talk much about Bethesda, right? We're going to get Starfield. I think they'll debut it like they did Fallout in a 20-minute presentation. And I think we'll see Machine Games' new Wolfenstein 3. Arcane Austin's got a new game they're set to reveal. I think we also see that. And
we think this might be in Bethesda's presentation that could follow up Microsoft.
Well, they're talking about it like it's one show now potentially.
Okay.
So Xbox and Bethesda, and they won't be a break in between. I don't know. Nobody really knows at this point. We got to wait for Xbox to officially confirm that. But when you talk about Xbox, the game studios, but then it's like they also own Bethesda at this point. And Bethesda has their own studios. So it's like all that is just going to be, I've been saying for a while, exclusive to Xbox. So while we're talking about like Avowed and Fable and Perfect Dark and Halo and Forza, it's like then you have an entirely other publisher.
Yeah. I keep thinking of Bethesda on its own now. I was like, maybe do a whole talk for Bethesda, but you're right. It is technically part of Microsoft, so.
I mean, there's going to be a ton of games shown. What do you think the show is going to be? Is it going to be Sunday? Is it going to be the Monday?
I mean,
if you had to take a guess,
I feel like their first day, they're like, hey, when was the earliest we can go? Because Microsoft loves seemingly to go first and kind of set the mood for E3. And why not do it now when they even have, like you said, Bethesda right next to them to show too? It's like they could show, a ton of games and really set the mood for E3. So I think they're going right away.
Yeah, I think I agree. The idea of Wolfenstein 3 appearing here is really exciting. I feel like that's the perfect Game Pass game. Like the New Order especially is one of the finest first-person shooters of the last generation. And a few people just wouldn't go into it because it's just a single player game. But when you have no barrier to entry, like what a perfect game to have on the service.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final thoughts there for Microsoft for you, John?
Blinks. No, I feel like they have the potential to deliver a lot of surprises in this. Things that we won't expect. They've bought a bunch of studios. Maybe there'll be a bunch of new IPs. But I think the big titles like we've covered, like Fable, they won't be here. But I think we are going to see some great stuff though.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I guess in a month we'll find out. Here's hoping they have some good stuff there, and here's hoping Halo Infinite looks awesome when they show it, and that it's coming out sooner rather than later so we can start playing it. But thanks everyone for joining us. Make sure you check out John and Rand down in the description below, and we'll see you guys next time.